Britain figures out time travel. The math is just not mathing. There is war. You're a reader. There is a little bit of romance. See, so the murder is not that serious. It's reading for 24 hours. I'm gonna need some snacks. I never get tired of watching people attempt this reading challenge. Something about it is unthinkable, unbelievable, sensational. If you've spent any time watching book content on TikTok or YouTube or even Reels, you've probably seen people attempt a challenge where they read for 24 hours. So how funny would it be if I did it myself? By the way, I'm Melissa and welcome to my channel. I'm gonna be reading for the next 24 hours. I'm gonna say that like it's an affirmation, like it's a manifestation. I will be reading for the next 24 hours. What am I reading for the next 24 hours? I'm gonna start here, but before we get into it, let's talk about what I just read. This is the third book in the Gilded Ones series, and that series was one of the first things that got me back into reading fiction more heavily and more regularly in my adulthood. It first caught my eye because black girls on book covers. Hello, can we get more of them, please? I can't really tell you what happens in this book without spoiling the series, but the series is about a girl named Zoe. Her name was not Zoe, that's my chihuahua. So the series follows Deka, who is 16 in the first book, and she lives in a society where all of the girls have to go through a blood ceremony. If their blood is red, good, they're safe, and they get to live in their misogynistic village forever. Woo! So of course, Deka's blood runs gold. It's not a spoiler, it's in the little flappy flap of the first book. And it basically takes her on a journey of now being considered a demon and later on becoming a warrior. It's got gods, a little bit of magic. There is war. There is a little bit of romance. It's a very slow burn. No spice whatsoever. It's a YA fantasy and I will recommend it to just about anyone. Welcome to my little reading corner of my dream space. Yes, that's what I call this room. Is it corny? Yes, I've got a little chair with a daisy pillow, some of my favorite / most aesthetic books, my little library sign. I'm trying to think about where this would look the best, like maybe in that corner, maybe under here. I'm not sure yet, TBD. I've got some fun lights and I'm right next to the window in case I want to burn my retinas. I think this does its job at being a very aesthetic place to start this challenge. Let's go. I'm very much a fantasy reader and I think I kind of want to continue on my black girl fantasy kick right now and finally read Lore of the Wilds. I found this book on BookTok. The author actually came up on my For You page and I was sold immediately by the cover. Look at that. And if the cover's not enough to convince you, the back reads, an abandoned library with a deadly enchantment, a fey lord who will do anything to get in, a brave human woman, a collector of stories, willing to risk it all for a taste of knowledge and power. So she's smart, and she loves the fairy boys. I feel like this is gonna be a great time and it's making me really excited and that's what we need at the beginning of the challenge, considering the fact that it's 24 hours has not yet fully sat into my brain. We have no time to waste. It is 9:40 right now. I'm gonna get started. Of course, I've been waiting to use my iPhone as a book reading timer, as one does. So the goal is to see how many books I can read by the time this timer says 24 hours, and I am only starting and stopping when I'm actually reading, so let's do it. Just about, and I'm on page 56, aka chapter 7 of this book. I didn't really think of myself as a fast reader, but I do feel like I'm reading this book kind of slowly. It is fantasy and it does take a while for me to sink into the world and to learn the characters and to figure out what the heck is going on. But the good thing about this book is that it moves very quickly, which is great for me because my attention span is about this big. By page 25, we're already off onto the main character. Her name is Lore, by the way. Get it? Like Lore of the Wilds. Lore is already off on her adventure. The other thing is I did not read too much about this book. I haven't even read the Flappy Flap. I like to be surprised by books and their stories and whatever worlds they want to bring me into, so I didn't look too much into this. I just love seeing black girls on book covers, especially fantasy book covers. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm really liking it so far. Lore lives in a world where humans were taken from the human realm and put into the Fae realm. And the Fae see them as lesser human beings, so they live in a dirt village. There was some sort of human Fae uprising a few years ago in which her family pretty much died. So she's an orphan and she lives in a shelter with 15 other kids. She calls the caretakers of them aunt and uncle, but they're not really her aunt and uncle. She has no family. And she helps her aunt run an apothecary to care for the shelter. Long story short, I'm skipping some of the details in case you want to read it. Fae guards show up. They're like, give me the owner of the apothecary. They don't have guns. I think they have swords. Give me the owner of the apothecary. And Lore, who seemingly has a hero complex, goes in her aunt's place. Boom, she's at the Fae castle. And the reason why they need her there is because she can translate the Altharian. I think it's Altharian, A-L-Y-T-H something. She can read their language. And inside the Fae castle is a library that none of the Fae have been able to enter for a millennia, which was 1,000 years. They did clarify that. So the new job given to her by her Fae overlords is to organize this library, but she's not allowed to read any of the books or talk about any of the books, except for with the steward guy, who seems to be the one in charge, and a mysterious Fae who I'm not sure is royal yet. Could be, but maybe isn't. He has wings. I can't tell if he's this character yet or not. We have met this character though, who is a Fae guard, and he is now the one watching over Lore while she is in the castle. I am actually very excited. I think I will pick up my reading pace just a little bit because I get a feel for what's going on, but we shall see. I'll check back in around page 100. Sounds like a deal? Okay, deal. Shake on it. Hello from the car. We actually had to run an errand and it's an hour drive back home, but I'm not gonna waste it considering this is a 24-hour reading challenge and I wanna get in as much reading as possible. That is the point. So I'm going to be listening to an audiobook that I started called The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. I'm 2 hours in already and it is unlike anything I've read as of recent. It's a very cozy fantasy romance set in Britain. The voice performers have accents, which I think just makes me that much more interested in the book, and it's holding me over until part 2 of Bridgerton drops. Let me figure out how to explain this in the most concise way that makes sense. Okay, Britain figures out time travel. They set up a program where they extract people from different periods of time, reasoning unknown at the moment, just to figure out if they can do it, really. Once they bring these people back from whatever time they're in to the present, they pair them with what's called a bridge, which is a person from today's world that helps them like basically assimilate into humanity and society as it is in this time period. Our female main character is the bridge to the male who has been extracted from, I want to say, like the 1800s. So he has a problem with the fact that she works and like wants to clean the house herself because he thinks that she should have servants, things like that. It's kind of giving My Roommate is a Vampire, but British time traveler version. And honestly, I'm here for it. Just a little break from Lore of the Wild into something else that's still escapism.
The last time he was in the north, he killed a reindeer on his hands and knees.
So one thing we're definitely not gonna do in this vlog is have a debate about whether or not audiobooks are real books. Book is literally in the name. So yes, listening to an audiobook 100% counts as reading a book. And I love listening to audiobooks because it frees up my brain and body to do other things while I'm reading. It's how I'm able to be productive and get things done on my to-do list, like this giant pile of clothes that needs to be put away for weeks, while escaping into a fantasy realm. And you know, some of these realms have really creative names and you never really know how to pronounce them correctly when you're reading the physical book unless you're listening to the audiobook, because then the performer knows exactly that character's name and exactly how to pronounce Altharian, or I still don't know. I need to actually listen to the audiobook to figure it out. I'm starting to realize just how long reading for 24 hours actually is. And before you say that's dumb, like I knew 24 hours is a lot of hours. I'm just realizing how many hours of the day I spend like sleeping, eating, checking things off of my to-do list. So like making the time to read is a lot more difficult during the day than I thought it was gonna be. So I think I'm gonna do the bulk of reading today tonight. But in order to do that, I'm gonna need some snacks. Oh, that's cool. all the visions? Is that one underneath? Oh, it's the same. If we start getting the baby ones, ooh. I was literally just picking that one up. But if we start getting this, it's done. Baby Baymaxes. Ooh, my bad. I want the one where he's making a heart. Why do I want this? Joy. We have to get Joy. She's one of my favorite Pixar characters. And it's Inside Out 2, Joy. Eee, I cannot wait for that movie. It's gonna be so good. Hello. It is 10:20 p.m. How people do this challenge by reading 24 hours straight is beyond me. I wouldn't be opposed to actually trying that, but right now I'm not gonna sacrifice me being a functioning human being for reading right now. This is supposed to make me like reading, get me back into reading more heavily, making time throughout my week for reading. And it's just not gonna work if I start off feeling negatively about the whole experience. But in my opinion, I've done pretty good today because throughout the day, throughout running errands, making a Target run, I have read 6 hours and 20 minutes almost. That's a lot of dedication to just reading today. And while I may not be doing this challenge 24 hours straight, I am gonna try to finish the 24 hours as quickly as possible with still getting like a relatively okay amount of sleep because I love my body and I want my body to continue to work for me. I did drink an Alani Nu at like 8 p.m. so I don't think I'm going to sleep anytime soon. And the goal for tonight is to finish Lore of the Wilds. I think I can do it. I think I can finish this book tonight. And once I do that, I'm taking my butt to sleep. But I'm gonna be reading on my couch. I love my chair. I love my aesthetic corner of my dream space. She's just not super comfy and I'm gonna be reading for the next few hours and I don't wanna wake up with a crooked neck. So yeah, I'm gonna put on my Creme Shop eye patches. I love these and get to reading.
Like everything that's bad in life, it's come to an end. We're letting go, drifting apart. There's no use trying to pretend.
I just finished chapter 10. It just got so exciting. I'm not gonna spoil it. I cannot wait to finish.
And I know that it's so hard. Got the look on your face. It's so hard to explain, but the words is the pain when you pronounce my name. Gloria, please. Don't cry for me. Don't cry for me. Gloria, please. Oh, Gloria, please. Don't cry for me.
So with about 100 pages left in the book, I did start feeling a little bored. The plot just slowed down, and yes, we got new characters and a new setting, but I just found everything at the beginning to be a little bit more interesting. Like, I loved the cozy vibe of the library, and I didn't feel like I was learning a ton more about the world or the magic system, so it kind of made me want to drop my rating from a 4 to a 3.5, but we'll see where we end up. Good morning! Just a little time check. It has been over 24 hours since I started filming this 24-hour reading vlog, but as we established, it's not about the actuality of 24 hours, it's about me reading for 24 hours as quickly as possible. Because I'm a realist. Right now, on the stopwatch, we have just under 12 hours read and 1 book completed, which by my calculations means I am a very slow reader, I think. Which is fine. I kind of feel like we need to get away from the I've read 175,000 books this year, because it's just stressful. I think sometimes that can make people feel like they're not being good enough readers, or they don't read enough to be considered a reader, or whatever. Listen, if you want to read 175,000 books in a year, go off, girl. I love that for you. You better be reviewing all of those on your Instagram story so I can add them to my TBR. But if you don't read that much, like even if you read 2 books a year, congratulations, you're a reader. And a personal goal for this vlog for me is that I just wanted to see how many books I could finish in 24 hours. Turns out, not as many as I thought, which is fine. But let's get into the one that I did finish last night. Lore of the Wilds. My girl, do I have thoughts. Spoiler alert. I will probably be spoiling parts of this book, so maybe just skip the review, or maybe you like to know a little bit of details. I'm not gonna ruin everything. I'm not gonna tell you what the cliffhanger plot twist was, because it was in here, but I will give you my opinion on the book. Let me get out my notes. So what drew me to this book, obviously, Black girl main character. That is really important to me. I love to see representation in the entertainment that I consume, and I know it's not just me, because I'm not the only Black girl in the world. I know we all wanna see it. And look at her hair. It literally looks like my hair, which is why I think I enjoyed the descriptions of her taking care of her hair. If you don't read a lot of books with main characters that look like you, or sound or speak or act the way you do, you don't realize what it feels like to read about a main character that does have hair like yours, and how she needs specific oils and creams and where she gets them in her fae fantasy world. I just had to point that out because that is just something I truly loved about this book. It was small, but it was important to me. Like I said, the adventure starts off very quickly, which I appreciate because teeny tiny attention span. However, it did slow down in the middle, which makes sense because, spoiler alert, she ends up leaving the library with a forbidden book and she's on the run, and we're introduced to a handful of new characters, which I did love the new characters. It did slow it down for me, and maybe it's also because I was reading this book at like 2 a.m. Let's talk about the romance in this book. It came very quickly. There wasn't a lot of tension buildup. I feel like I flipped the page and suddenly it was romance, and I was taken a bit aback. I guess I'm used to fantasy romance where there's a lot of tension and you're like waiting for the moment where it's like, yes, they did it. I do feel like it kind of came out of nowhere. I guess I'm gonna say enemies to lovers very, very loosely. Maybe not enemies, more like we don't know if we vibe until we know that we vibe. And I have to tell you, there is like one chili pepper of spice in this book. I think it's like one chapter or half of a chapter. I was not expecting it at all. I could have done without it, honestly. I think the point of the romance was fine without it, but it was in here. Next point, I like that you can sense the mystery throughout the book. Like, you kind of get the feeling that everything is not what it seems. The math is just not mathing as the plot continues. Little details point out that, like, we don't know everything about the Fae. We don't know what they want from the humans. We don't know why the humans are in the Fae world. And it builds really well in that sense, and I like that. And I have to give you my opinion of Lore, the main character. She is so frustrating. Like, this girl is so impulsive. Quite literally running into the face of danger. It's giving Disney princess in a way. Maybe that's why I kind of like her for it. But at times it is super frustrating to read, like, hey, there's danger over there. Lore, on my way. Like, girl, you are so vulnerable. You don't even know how this world works, and you're just bounding into it. I mean, okay. She also falls for any man that has been in her vicinity for like 3 hours. Go off, girl. Go off. She's been through a lot. She needs some happiness. It is nice that the other characters kind of point out how impulsive she is, though. Like, it makes you feel justified as a reader. You're like, I knew this girl was wild. Literally wild. And last but not least, there is a cliffhanger. And there is a plot twist. Miss Anna Lee, we got beef, because not only did you just give us the plot twist, you left it. You left it on a cliffhanger. We don't know what's happening next, but we want to know extremely bad. And I need to know what it's gonna take for us to get book 2, because I need to know where this story goes. Overall, I felt like giving it a 4-star review for most of my read. There was a point in the middle where I was kind of like, maybe this is 3.5, but the ending did bring it back up to 4 for me. I'm pretty easy to please. I just want to enjoy a fun little fantasy story, and this one makes me want to know what's next so badly. 4 out of 5 stars. So we're about halfway through this 24-hour reading challenge, and I do have a bit of a busier day today, so I'm just gonna try my best and read as much as I can. And I'm actually thinking about staying up again tonight to read, not only just to get my 24 hours in, but because at night, my to-do list doesn't matter. Nothing matters, I'm just on my couch escaping into a world. Wouldn't it be hee hee ha ha funny if I put my cute little Kindle in a Loungefly backpack and took myself on a little reading date to Disney World? Wouldn't that just be so funny? To Disney's Yacht and Beach Club Resort. It is connected to their boardwalk, which I did get through by walking through Epcot. Had to go through a couple of countries, but here we are. And I did make a TikTok about coming here. But I thought this would be a fun place to get out of the house, motivate myself to continue reading, most of all starting a brand new book, while being surrounded by sand and water and boats and vibes. Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, it was a very magical time. It's the next day, and I am 50% through my next book. I needed a little bit of a palate cleanser, okay? I love fantasy. She will always have my heart. Nothing can make me hate her, but sometimes I do need a break. It's really hard to be so deep in one world and then immediately jump to another world that is also complex and full of so many characters and settings and descriptions and all of that good, juicy, fantasy, whimsical stuff. I am also listening to the Ministry of Time audiobook, which is more cozy, still fantasy though. We're talking time travel romance. So I needed something a little more real world grounded. Enter Finlay Donovan is killing it. This has been on my TBR, and I'm starting to realize that my third favorite book genre is the cozy, comedic murder mystery. I've also read the A is for Aunties series. I forget who writes that, but it's so good. I like these stories because the murder is not that serious. It typically happens in a funny little kind of unexpected, unbelievable way, and it's just not like thrillers. I can't do thrillers. I can barely do scary movies. I don't want to be up afraid while reading, but I can do a book like this. So I'm gonna read you the summary because I'm afraid that if I explain it myself, I may spoil something. So this is the description straight from Amazon. Finlay Donovan is killing it, except she's really not. She's a stressed out single mom of 2 and struggling novelist. Finlay's life is in chaos. The new book she promised her literary agent isn't written, her ex-husband fired the nanny without telling her, and this morning she had to send her 4-year-old to school with hair duct taped to her head after an incident with scissors. When Finlay is overheard discussing the plot of her new suspense novel with her agent over lunch, she's mistaken for a contract killer and inadvertently accepts an offer to dispose of a problem husband in order to make ends meet. Soon, Finlay discovers that crime in real life is a lot more difficult than its fictional counterpart as she becomes tangled in a real-life murder investigation. See, so the murder is not that serious. It's actually kind of funny. And so far, I really, really like it. It's keeping my attention. Like, I keep wanting to click my little Kindle page and keep finding out what's happening, which is why I think I'm already 50% of the way in. It's also a very, very easy read. Exactly what I'm looking for after War of the Wilds. A little time check update. It is day 3 of this 24-hour reading challenge, and I am 17 hours, 16 minutes in, and according to my Audible, I have 4 hours left on the Ministry of Time. So, I think between these 2 books, we may hit 24 hours. If not, like a good little reader, I have another book on deck. So far, I'm just realizing how much effort it takes to really read books. Like, not in the sense that reading is necessarily hard, just the time it takes to get through a book. Even when I feel like I'm reading fast, I definitely read faster on my Kindle than a physical book. It's still hours of your time you have to find throughout your life to even read these books. So don't feel bad if you're not reading a ton of books very, very quickly, if you can't keep up with the book talk girlies or the booktuber girlies, because there's no way they're doing anything but reading all of the time. Let's see if we can finish this book today. I believe in us.
tonight, didn't think I would get hooked. You fill me in without a fight, now I'm floating in the air. When you're looking at me, baby, all this isn't fair. Getting closer, getting closer to you. 입술을 깨문 네 모습 보면 내 심장도 부탄 뛰게 해. 가사 따위 필요도 올라가는 템포 그냥 이대로 가면 vibe check. 밤이 끝나기 전까지 내 곁에 같이 있어줘. 본능적으로 up, let's get down right now. 머리부터 발끝까지 다.
24 hours done. We did it, y'all, and I am actually feeling so good about it. Part of the reason I even wanted to do this challenge was to get myself more excited about reading again, actually trying to make time for it in my life, and I'm so glad that I did because we got some good reads out of this little challenge now, didn't we? Speaking of reads, let me just give you my final thoughts on the last 2 books we read. Starting with Finlay Donovan is Killing It. Now that it's been a little bit since I've read it, I really, really like it. Like I said, I'm figuring out that the cozy comedic murder mystery is like my 3rd favorite genre of book to read. You just know it's gonna work out well for the main character. That is a comforting part of this genre. She does a really good job of making you root for Finlay in the beginning, like setting up her horrible circumstances, why she would even consider being a contract killer. And it just starts to make sense and you buy into it very, very quickly. And then we're on this journey of how she gets away with murder. It all wrapped up in a nice, beautiful bow. It was a fun time, and I'm glad that there's a second book. That's something that really influences my rating, is whether or not I want to read the next book, if it's a series. All of that being said, I think I would rate Finlay Donovan is Killing It like somewhere in the 4s, between a 4 and a 4.5. Like, I don't know if I really want to give it 4.5, but I'll give it like 4.2 or 3. And last but not least, The Ministry of Time. I ended up speeding up my Audible like read rate so that I could end the book right at 24 hours because I was tired. But also, I was tired of listening to this book. Sorry. The romance was a slow burn. You really got to know the characters. This is a book where it's not just about the main characters. It really is about all of the side characters and all of their mini adventures and storylines through the plot. It was fine. I just don't read a lot of cozy fantasy because it tends to be slow. I feel like I maybe would have liked this book if I read it more in the fall time with a pumpkin spice chai and a cozy blanket and I don't know, by a fireplace. The plot was good. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun time. This is the kind of story that I think I would have liked better as a movie though. But it takes place in the real world. Like, Britain is a place in the real world versus Altheria from Lore of the Wilds being in a completely made up realm. I find myself wanting to be in the play realms rather than reality. Was it my favorite book? No. Could it be your favorite book? Maybe. So overall, I am gonna give it a personal rating of a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't think it deserves anything less than a 3. It's a good book. It's just not the book for me. So we have a 4, a 4.23, and a 3. I think that's a pretty good job. I have already started another audiobook that I'm so excited to talk about. And I did buy the Powerless novella Powerful on our little Target snack run. Definitely subscribe for more reading vlogs because they're on the way. What should we name our book club? But until the next video, I will see you probably somewhere else on the internet, TikTok, Instagram, maybe even on your TV. Bye!